Chapter 3, Conflicts and Struggles. Love at first had been effortless. It had been laughter in hidden cafes, long walks beneath lantern-lit streets, music echoing through empty halls. But love is not made only of moments that glitter. It must also survive the shadows that inevitably come. Adrian and Elena were no exception. The first sign was subtle. It was late afternoon, the sky bruised with approaching rain. Adrian had just returned from a day spent photographing the markets, his camera filled with portraits of strangers, wrinkled hands weighing spices, children darting between stalls, lovers leaning into each other in the crowd. He entered the concert hall where Elena was practicing, eager to show her his work. "Elena," he called softly, raising his camera as though it were an offering. But she didn't look up. Her fingers were moving furiously over the keys, a storm of notes cascading into the cavernous space. The sound was unlike anything he had heard from her before. Raw, almost violent, each chord striking like a demand. He waited, but the music only grew louder, more insistent. Finally, he set the camera down and touched her shoulder. She stopped abruptly, the silence almost painful after the frenzy. "What is it?" she asked, her tone sharper than he expected. "I just wanted to—" He hesitated. "To share something with you." Her eyes softened immediately, regret flashing across her face. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean— I'm just frustrated." "With what?" "Myself," she whispered. "This piece isn't coming together. I've played it 100 times and it still feels wrong." Adrian sat beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. "Maybe you're trying too hard. Sometimes the best notes come when you stop chasing them." She sighed, pulling her hand away to close the piano lid. "That might work for photographs, but music doesn't wait. If I'm not perfect, someone else will be." The edge in her voice startled him. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was already extraordinary, but the words caught in his throat. For the first time, he saw the weight she carried, the invisible pressure she placed on herself, the fear of being forgotten. Later that night, walking home together, the tension lingered. The rain had begun again, soft but steady, their shared umbrella too small to shield them completely. "You're quiet," Adrian said finally. "So are you. I just— I don't like seeing you so hard on yourself. And I don't like feeling like you don't understand," she replied, her steps quickening. The words stung. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that he did understand, in his own way. But he said nothing, letting the silence stretch between them until it became a wall. The cracks widened slowly. Adrian was offered a photography exhibition in another city, a small gallery, nothing grand, but still an opportunity. When he told Elena, her smile was warm, her congratulations sincere. But later that night, when he looked at her as she thought he was asleep, her eyes were shadowed. "You're going to leave, aren't you?" she whispered into the dark. He stirred, caught off guard. "What?" "No, not forever," she said quickly, shaking her head. "But you will, sooner or later. You've never stayed in one place. Not for long." Her words cut deeper than she realized. He didn't answer, because he didn't know the truth himself. The next weeks were marked by small arguments. Not explosive fights, but quiet fractures that left echoes. Elena grew jealous, though she tried not to show it, when she saw the portraits Adrian took of strangers. The intimacy of his gaze, the way he captured their souls. Once, scrolling through his camera, she asked too sharply, "Why don't you look at me that way when you photograph me?" He froze, the accusation unexpected. "I do," he said firmly, "more than anyone else." "Then why do those photos feel fuller?" He tried to explain that strangers carried mystery, that part of his art was searching for it. But Elena only shook her head, turning away, her silence heavier than any words. One evening they attended a gathering of artists at a friend's studio. Painters, musicians, writers. Adrian was in his element, drifting from group to group, laughing, gesturing, sharing stories. Elena, though polite, felt increasingly out of place. She watched as a young woman leaned close to Adrian, fascinated by his tales of photographing children in Morocco. The woman's laughter rang out, her hand brushing his arm. Something sharp twisted in Elena's chest. When Adrian finally returned to her side, his face flushed with enthusiasm, she smiled too brightly. "You seem to enjoy yourself." "I was just talking," he said, sensing the edge in her tone. "Talking, yes. Flirting, maybe." He blinked, startled. "Elena." "Forget it," she cut in, rising from her chair. "I shouldn't have come." She left before he could stop her. That night, when he found her at the piano, she was playing with her eyes closed, her body swaying as though trying to lose herself in sound. "Elena," he said gently. She ignored him, the notes swelling. "Elena." The music grew louder, frantic. Finally, he reached out and pressed the lid shut. The abrupt silence was like a slap. Her eyes blazed. "Don't do that." "Then talk to me," he pleaded. "Don't shut me out." "I don't know how," she whispered, her voice breaking. They stood on opposite sides of a widening gulf, both terrified, both stubborn. Adrian felt the weight of his own restlessness pressing harder. Part of him longed to escape, to vanish into another city, another story, another fleeting moment. But another part, the part that looked at Elena and saw more than any photograph could capture, ached to stay. Elena, too, wrestled with her fears. She wanted to trust him, to believe he wouldn't disappear like others had. But the shadows of doubt lingered, whispering that love was as temporary as music's final note. Inner monologue. "Adrian, why is it so hard? Why can't I give her certainty when she asked for it? Maybe because I don't have it myself. Maybe because I've always lived in the in-between. But with her, I want to try. I'm just afraid of failing her." Inner monologue. "Elena, I love him. I know I do. But love alone doesn't erase fear. He doesn't see how fragile this is for me, how easily it could break. Or maybe he does, and that's what frightens him too." The city moved on around them. The sea tides rose and fell. Markets filled and emptied. Lanterns flickered on and off each night. But between Adrian and Elena, the rhythm had shifted. What had begun as effortless harmony now carried discord. And though they still loved each other, both could feel it. The storm was coming. End of the third chapter. Subscribe and like this video so you don't miss the next chapter. And the fourth chapter will be about the climax.